This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset, going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it. The internet almost shut down because they're like, are you blind? Do you not know what's going on out there? Do you not see what's happening?
You just hit 250,000 cold calls. Congratulations.
Don Markland is in the house. I'm so excited to have you, Don, on the Pipe Podcast today. I'm your host, Crispin Cruz, and we're going to be talking about, if you've seen an episode or so, or if you've listened to at least part of one before you decided to tune out. That happens sometimes, Don. We talk about sales process, sales initiatives, sales prospecting, and experiences. So it's pretty exciting to have you here to talk about scaling done right, and really interested in the listeners and the viewers hearing a little bit of your story. So if you wouldn't mind just digging into that, what part of the world do you run, Don? Just give our listeners and our viewers a little background on yourself and your organization. And then we'll just take a leap from there, if that's okay.
I will. I'd love to do that. And before I do, I wanted to say, Crispin, I just love what you do. When my friend and I, when we had our first business, we were an outbound lead generation business about a decade ago, and there were really no podcasts or anything to learn. So when we wanted to learn how to do outbound lead gen, or we wanted to learn how to even build a business, we were like calling friends we knew. We were calling people and saying, what do we do? And what mistakes shouldn't we make? And the fact that you've got this and that there's so much insight, I can't tell you how much I love that you provide a vehicle for people to learn, for myself to learn from other people. It's really, really great. So thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
People don't know how much effort you put behind the scenes. So they just see the end product, and it's just awesome. So thank you so much.
Well, that's called, in the sales world, this, Don, that's called feeding my eye. And, our foundational training is based on DISC, right? And I'm like an off the chart eye. Yeah. So anytime I hear that, I'm just like, ooh, that's delicious. Give me some more of that. Let me have another bite of that, Don. But thank you for that. That's very gracious of you to say that. Yeah. So tell our listeners a little bit about you, please.
Yeah. So my story a little bit, right? We're based out of St. Augustine, Florida, and my business is called Accountability Now. We are a sales and marketing coaching firm, and we work with businesses under 3 million in size that are trying to grow and scale to 20 million. And once we get to about 20 million, we, wave goodbye and we hand them off to other groups, because they typically have to get a board and they have to do other types of things that aren't as fun for us. We do have a couple of enterprise clients on a very, unique basis, but our sweet spot is if you're under 3 million in size, our job is to help you scale up to 20 million. And the reason that's our sweet spot is, that's where I spent most of my career, was figuring out the right sales model to help those businesses grow. And I did that myself with 2 businesses. And we realized, if we follow a certain steps, like a recipe, and we are really clear with that model, we can find a lot of success doing it.
That's great. That's great. And how did you become so, passionate about helping organizations grow or helping, people reach their goals and their dreams? I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
So, I got into coaching probably through the back door. I always wanted to be a corporate safe guy. I'll never forget when I was in my mid-20s. I was an executive. I was a vice president of sales and operations for a call center company, and I was driving through the Midwest with my CEO at the time. And he was telling me, Don, one day you're going to be an entrepreneur and own your own business. And I said, his name was John. I said, John, that's not me. I'm not that guy. I don't want to take risks. I just want to be a corporate guy.
Right.
Then a couple of things changed. About 2 years later, my wife went through cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the greatest thing that ever happened to us. It was hard.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard. But it was great what happened to us, because we learned so much about what mattered to us, and that time's the greatest asset that we all have. And I know you know that. I know you've talked about that.
Yeah.
And it's the greatest thing. And then secondly, I realized I was spending, 70 hours a week sometimes, is a lot of times on an airplane for somebody else. Right. And I thought, wait a minute, if I'm doing all of this, maybe there's a better way. And so I created my own personal model called the 4 C's of accountability, which I ended up writing a book about. And I used that throughout the later parts of my career, which ended up being the foundation for this business, Accountability Now, and which kind of launched our whole business idea.
Yeah, that is great. That is great. And even when you talk about your wife, I get chills, just hearing about it, because a lot of times, Don, when we're working with clients like yourself, we're talking about listen with the intent of listening. Don't listen with the intent to reply.
That's right. Yeah.
And I apply that concept even in the podcast, because I'm listening for tonality. I'm listening for triggers. I'm listening for what you're passionate about. I see it, I hear it in your voice. I see it in your eyes. Like that's a real story. Like those that are listening and watching right now, this is a real guy that knows his stuff. All right. And it's hard. It's hard to find those people these days, Don. I don't know why, but when we talk about, and I've read books on, be your authentic self and all of these other, more, and sometimes I think I'm reading more of a self-help book than I'm reading a sales book, right? But when we talk about accountability now, and how you use those tools, just pivoting for a second, how do we shift that, that belief system in where we feel passionate about something and we want to help someone, and we want to see them again reach their goals, their dreams, and put that into some sort of an accountability process that sounds a lot like, hey, okay, so now you're going to micromanage me. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you bring up something really great that I think, and when we teach accountability in our business, and I talk about it in the book, the first thing is to change how we understand what accountability is. Because oftentimes we've got this misunderstanding or negative relationship with accountability. We always think accountability is in relationship to mistakes or mess ups, right? And you'll say that you see this in sales culture all the time. You need to hold them more accountable. Hold them accountable when they mess up, or hold that person accountable. And I would say accountability is just as important for the wins, if not more so, than mistakes. And salespeople are at the worst at this, right? Because when they do something well or they make a decision, they don't hold themselves accountable. They don't say, I did this technique right on. I nailed it. I did this closing technique, and they hold themselves accountable for that. Their sales manager doesn't come over and say, you nailed this technique. Great work. You listened exactly like we trained. I want to hold you accountable to that. Great job. They only want to call out and say, hey, you didn't do this, average speed of answer, or you didn't do this, or you didn't do this, which creates all of this negativity around accountability. So, and there's this lie that we say to ourselves, and I see people say, no one says, I don't like to be held accountable. I love this. People say, I love accountability. I love feedback. That's bull crap. Nobody loves to be held accountable when it's always criticism and it's always negative. Nobody does.
Right.
And so we teach you need to change your relationship with it. And accountability means all of your decisions, you get credit for all of them. And when you make good ones, especially in sales, and all the sales managers that listen to your show, when they see their reps making technique choices that lead to sales, I want you to jump in and hold them accountable for that and say, you did this technique that led to the sale. Great job.
Yep.
And hold them accountable and watch. They'll do that more.
Right.
Fun. They'll do that. And that will change your sales team and your sales organization.
That's great. That's great. And so then let's move that whole mindset into culture. I mean, so now when you talk about changing and thinking about accountability in a different way, how have you seen that impact the culture of the organizations that you serve?
Our clients, especially, everything we usually start. You have to start at the top, and you know that when you start at the executive level, and they all start to understand that accountability is not a negative thing, and that we're going to hold people accountable for all of the choices that they make. Right, and it's important we stay that way. It's not just the wins. You do have to comment on all the choices that they make. Right. And when we start to do that, the entire organization starts to change and respond and move towards more progressive behaviors that we want. Now, here's another thing that's important. A lot of times, the company doesn't know what behaviors they want. They think they know. They think they just want sales. They don't know what behaviors they want, which lead to more sales. And you talk about this in your show a lot, which is drive the right behaviors. Drive the right behaviors.
That's right.
And if we talk through accountability, so the conversations are right, the incentives are right, all aligned towards the right behaviors across the organization, people will start to move towards that.
That's right. That's right. So when you're in there and you're rolling up your sleeves, Don, because what I do know about you and your organization is you just don't simply come in and say, okay, guys, we're going to do a whole pro forma for you. And then you produce a, 200 or 300 page, a document, you drop it on the CEO's desk and you say, here you go. Here are all the issues, the challenges, the problems that you're having in your company or in your organization. And then the CEO starts flipping through this big dossier of information. And then they say, okay, when do we get started? And you're like, oh, we don't do that. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you get in there and you roll up your sleeves and you get the work done. So what are some of the common roadblocks that you've encountered, as you're unpacking organizations and just that seem common to organizations throughout, even if they're in different markets, right? Even if they're in, you're probably seeing some common roadblocks that each organization is experiencing. What does that look like in your world?
I love what you referenced. You actually referenced when we started the business, the impetus of why I started Accountability Now. Years ago, when I worked with Amazon, we paid $250,000 to have McKinsey come in, and they spent 6 weeks with me, all day with me for 6 weeks, to at the end deliver me that dossier, this big presentation, to tell me about the problems I already knew I had.
Right.
And then we cut the check for $250,000, and I was so frustrated because I thought, what the heck did I just pay for? Somebody to just tell me what I already knew existed.
Right.
And so when I created Accountability Now, we said we will use the player coach model, which means, yes, sometimes we have to identify problems, but we are always going to jump in, roll up our sleeves. Our model is we're always month to month. We never sign long-term contracts because we bet on ourselves to win with every one of our clients. And so in your description, what we do, the biggest roadblock, and this is an important factor when people are trying to find the right coaches. There's so many coaches out there that spend hours and hours and hours on just limiting beliefs and goal setting rather than tactics. It's because maybe they don't know what to talk about. And I'm not trying to speak negatively about them, but we jump in and we really try to get to the X's and O's of what is stopping revenue from generating. And the first step is we have to visualize the whole process. Step one is, what is your customer journey from marketing through acquisition? And you've done this exercise. This is the whole pipe process.
Right,
and you
right.
go through it and you look for leaks in the pipe. And we can just map it all the way out and go, oh, there's no script right here. Oh, there's no outreach right here. Oh, there's no technology right here. And as we map that out, we will identify some key gaps in the process. And now we start to build it out and jump right in. And literally, like a plumber would, we've tried to repair those breaches, put technology in where we can, and either replace people or train people and jump in and watch the sales start to grow and scale.
That's great. That is great. It's perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say. And that's what, and the reason being is because, of course, our organizations align, quite nicely with one another. As far as process goes and how we work with, our clients as well. But, we see trends and changes, and especially now in this market. I mean, this is a unique time to be and I use that word very carefully. This is a unique time to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, even starting your own, starting an opportunity that maybe you've been thinking about doing or something you've been thinking about doing for a long time. What are you seeing out there, and what sort of challenges is the entrepreneur kind of facing in this business environment that is not so easy right now?
Well, I think that AI is an extremely important topic that every business owner or want to be business owner has to understand and know. The AI, and whether it's ChatGPT or any version of ChatGPT, AI is going to have revolutionary impact on your business in the same way that social media did, 13 years ago, and the same way Google did in the early aughts, right? And so you have to be paying attention to the way AI is going to impact your business. And that applies to every single business owner. If you're an enterprise business, if you're a startup in technology, or if you're home services, if you're doing rug cleaning, if you're doing roofing, if you're doing fencing, it doesn't matter. AI is going to impact your business. And so if I was talking to any startup or entrepreneur or small business owner, it's not will it, it's how will it, and how can you use it to impact your business.
That's great.
That's super important.
That's great. That's great. Well, there's a reason why, and it sounds like you've watched a couple of these episodes, which I thank you. I thank you for that. So there's a reason why we do this Monday morning, 8 to 9 a.m. We selected the time slot for one simple purpose. It's to get, salespeople, entrepreneurs, business owners, to get them going, right? To get them going for their week, and to give them something just to think about or chew on, or something that motivates them, to have a good, productive, strong week. And so that's one of the reasons why we do it, why we deliver this, this pipe podcast, and for many different, organizations throughout the US. So I say that because, what would you say are at least a few things that you need to do to really start to gin up your sales team? Like, what do you go in and say, okay, if your sales team if they're doing these three things, then you probably have it right?
The three things that you have to have for every sales team is, one, they have to have a daily huddle. Have to have a daily huddle. It doesn't have to be an hour long. It can be 10 minutes long. It can be 15 minutes long. But salespeople need calibration every day. Because remember, and this is probably as good as anyone on planet Earth, salespeople's life is the majority of rejection, right? Every yes lives in the land of no's. And so they're going to absolutely need calibration every single day. This is what matters. Here's where you're focused. Let's go through your pipeline. Let's train a little bit. Let's role play. Let's do that. So always have a daily huddle. Number two, and this doesn't happen enough, but train every day. Train every single day with your sales team. We, in our sales teams and all of my clients, we train every day. Never fail. The teams that are calling tomorrow on July 4th that are international, we're training tomorrow because we train every single day. It's this old Stephen Covey principle of sharpen the saw. And for some reason in sales, and I think it has to do with the ego of salespeople, they think, I got it. I'm good. I don't have to learn anymore. Training is a never check the box, it done thing. It is a continual. I mean, I think I'm as good at sales as anybody on planet Earth. And I still read sales books. I still watch training videos. I still train every day, 7 days a week. And then the third thing is have a script. This whole philosophy that salespeople just want to be organic and feel it out. I mean, I get involved in business, and Crispin, I know you do as well. You get involved, and they're like, well, our sale is more of a workflow, and we just try to figure it out. It's like, well, nope, that's not going to work. And we're going to get it down right, because sales is about consistent emotional response. And get a script so we can drive consistency. And you'll win. You do those three things, and I'd be shocked if you couldn't drive at least some consistent improvement.
That's great. That's great. And here's the thing, Don. You talk about these three things, and it seems so. Sales 101 kind of basic stuff, right? I mean, it's like, here are the things that you need to do to be successful. And how many times have you run up against individuals that seem to have the talent, the raw talent, right? Seem to have the chops to want to make it happen, right? The work ethic, but they just don't want to try something new. Like they're adverse to change. How do you talk about that even with an individual or with a team to say, hey, when accountability now comes into your organization, you're probably going to see some change. I mean, if we continue to do the same thing over and over, we know what happens, right? And we get the same result, and then that literally drives people crazy. So how does that work in your world?
What you're describing is apparent, like, for example, in the weight loss industry, right? And it's been apparent in the weight loss industry for hundreds and hundreds of years, where people are always looking for this magic pill or some unique way to lose weight. When time and time again, weight loss experts just say, well, if you'll just lower your calorie intake and work out consistently, you'll lose weight. They're like, well, but I don't want to do any of that. I just want something unique. And they make up excuses like, well, that doesn't work for me, or that doesn't work. I'm big boned, or I've got all this. And none of it really is true. You just need to follow a really hard set and be disciplined to it. It works the same thing with sales. So many times they're like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to prospect. I don't want to train every day. Are you serious? Train every day? Daily huddle? I don't want to do that. I just want an escalator to success. That's what I want. I don't want that. And so that's part of dealing with the ego. And when you deal with an ego, you can do two things. You can either, one, outwork it, right? You can just show that I'm not going away, right? You have patience, you have grace, and you have to outwork the ego. You have to show up early, stay later, and outwork the ego until they realize, wow, I can't win. Or secondly, and this is a hard thing for business owners to realize, sometimes people that might be a superstar in your team, but that won't get on board with the program, are not a member of the team.
Right.
One of the best moves we did, this is in my last business. We were a financial services company that we grew to 89 million. It was a big success for us. We made a big investment. And I know you know who Grant Cardone is. And
sure.
We were at the time Grant's largest client for Cardone University. We were paying them about $350,000 a year for their whole suite to train our salespeople. And as we did that, we had our top, I'll say this quickly, our top 5 guy wouldn't get on board and wouldn't train. He was our fifth performer. And I told him, if you don't start training every day, I'm going to let you go. He still wouldn't train. Warning, warning, warning. We finally let him go just for not training. And then we told the whole team, we let this guy go because he wouldn't train. Imagine where you're at on the list. And everybody trained every day after that.
That's great. That is great. That's great. I'm just, I'm so amazed about it when I hear about these, when you set in these process and then you see the result. Like that is the piece that is really interesting to me. Like when you start to work the program, when you start to put in all the foundational processes, when you start to do the daily huddle, when you start to have some movement that those entrepreneurs had not seen in the past, and they start to see it, you know. But Don, in your heart of hearts, I mean, you gotta tell me, does it ever happen as fast as they want it to?
Uh, no, of course. I mean, there are plenty of times where, and I don't bat 1,000, in my life.
Right.
And there are many times where we roll out initiatives or roll out things that don't work right away, and it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And and we have resistance from the team and resistance from people, and we have to rework the model.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating, and that's why we're dealing with people and not robots.
Right.
And we'll roll out a script that I'm confident will work, and then we'll have to rework it. A good example is one of our clients right now. They're in the HVAC industry, and when we first started with them, they were generating around $250,000 a month. And the first 4 or 5 months, we could barely make any movement, and we were trying every new script, and nothing seemed to work. And then kind of had the breakthrough, and now they're up almost 1,500% every month. I mean, we're just crushing it every month and expanding the team and growing. But it took a long time of changing the script over and over and over until we could get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so right. And it takes, now you're getting me excited. You can tell because, it takes time. It takes time. And there's so many, I got to tell you, Don, I've had tough conversations with leadership and owners, and to let them know that, hey, listen, it didn't happen like this overnight, and we're not going to fix it overnight. I mean, or we're not going to help you to expand your business overnight. A lot of the, and I do feel blessed. A lot of the business owners that we work with, they've taken their organization to a certain level, and now they just want to get to that next step, So they've been in their own right. Most of them have been successful at what they do. Now it's just, how do we scale? How do we grow the organization to the point that we think, right, that it can? And so that's exciting for us because we're going into mostly healthy businesses. And then we've gone into some that are just like, we've got to make a change. The market's changed. We're seeing drops in our sales. We're seeing drops in our overall revenue. We really love the company and the culture and the organization, and we want to do what's right for those that we serve. And so we brought you in to help us to not just get back to where we were, but hopefully to get to that next step.
That's right.
Those are more challenging. Those opportunities are more challenging because, you feel, I can tell we became fast friends because, I can tell that you take a personal interest in probably every, organization that you serve. You build relationships with them. You have a good understanding of how they work. I mean, it sounds like you dig in and, like we talked about earlier, roll your sleeves up and get the work done. And when you do that, it's difficult not to make connections with those that are within the organizations, and some deep connections with those that work within those companies.
That's absolutely right. My wife says this is a really cringy statement. She hates it, but we try to be very intimate with our clients on purpose, because we feel that the closer we can become aligned with them, the more scalable we can become. And with them, and the longer term we can do. And because of our model, like I mentioned before, we never sign long-term contracts. I meet with my own coach. I always tell everybody should have a coach, including your coaches. They should have coaches themselves.
That's right.
And it's amazing to me how many coaches I talk to that are like, well, I don't have a coach. And I'm like, it makes no sense to me, right? That you can be a coach and not have a coach. And so my coach always tells me, she says, how, you have so much risk on your business. Every one of your 71 clients could fire you today.
Yeah.
And I know that every morning, every single morning that could happen, which means we better show up and deliver for every single client every single day.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. That's why we scale. That's why we grow as much as we do. And that's why we've won the awards that we've won, is because of it.
That's awesome. I'm so happy for you. I'm so glad that your organization's going well and that you're instilling these sales really lessons and these sales processes, and you're helping companies to really achieve, their goals and their dreams. So I want to pivot. We talked a lot about, even just the culture of the company. We talked about those resources within it, the sales people and the teams. We did a lot of that, but let's talk now at a higher level with the actual business owners, and those entrepreneurs. And maybe you can just give the listening audience and the viewing audience some tips on what you see happening throughout the rest of this year. And basically, what would you say that as an entrepreneur, a business owner, someone that's trying to drive the right culture, what are the 3 things that they should be doing to effectively grow their business?
The first thing I would tell, we are saying this to business owners, that this whole feeling of, well, the economy is really bad, that it's not true, right? It's not true. That's and right. If you think the economy's bad, first of all, look at the data and look what 2008 was. Okay, that's a bad economy.
Right.
That's a bad economy. And if you just don't tune into all the noise of the news, regardless of what it's telling you, because remember, we're going into a presidential election year where they're all having an agenda to get you to believe a narrative. And I'm not trying to make this political, but both sides have a narrative. The truth is the economy is not bad. People are buying every day. They're buying your services every day. In 2008, no one was. Okay. Right. That's the difference. Right now, they are buying every day. They are. You might have to be a little creative with maybe how you're positioning your offer, or you adjusting some different things, but they're buying every single day. So the economy is not bad. And so don't lead your business or your team or your startup with, well, the economy's bad, we've got to do things differently. That is not true. And you're starting off on the wrong foot. And so then number 2, I already mentioned this earlier, start the narrative with, how will we use AI in the business? Between now and the end of the year, it's going to get bigger and bigger. I was a keynote speaker at the CMO Summit in New York, and I was there speaking with the CMO of Twitter. And he was talking about how, because he works so closely with Elon Musk, and he was talking about OpenAI and ChatGPT, and he said in less than 2 years of ChatGPT and AI, the content will be so human-like that we won't know the difference and we won't care. And if you don't think that, then you got to get on the train. You got to get on board, right? And so incorporate it now. You're either going to be left behind or you're going to incorporate in your business. And then the third thing is, and this is what Crispin's whole podcast is about, and this is what we deal with entrepreneurs, is being a salesperson is not a gross, icky, like nasty thing. It is the most proud thing that will make your business grow. And be thrilled when you're being a salesperson for your business. Be thrilled when you learn how to sell it.
That's great. And
I see so many times business owners think that their passion for their product is enough. And it's not even close. Be just as passionate about learning the sales techniques and process and pipeline and skills to sell well as you are about learning your product or your service.
That's great.
If you'll do that, oh my goodness, you'll actually have a thriving business rather than just a really busy job.
That's great. That is great. That's great advice. Well, Don, this is normally the time that we pivot a little bit to the Pipe podcast, or to what we call the Sales Arbiter 7, during
Yeah.
this Pipe podcast. And this one, yeah, I know they're really tough questions. Yeah, but people have really gotten to expect this, and they enjoy it because they get the opportunity to learn a little something more about you that maybe they didn't know before. And it's not an original idea. I stole this from our friend James Lipton inside the
Yeah.
Actor Studio,
I
and
was a musical theater major in college, so I
yeah,
know.
okay, good.
Yeah,
So
so
you
I know
understand
Lipton
it, so
stuff
that's
really
great.
well. Yeah,
So I'd just like to ask you a few questions if you're willing to participate, and
love
just,
it.
so maybe the listeners and the viewers get to know a little bit more personally about Don Markland as well.
Love it.
So okay, great. Let's roll. So what is your favorite word, Don? What's your favorite word?
My favorite word is accountable. Obviously, I just love.
You like it? Yeah, it's pretty much
Yeah,
everywhere.
just because I think it means just integrity and honesty to yourself and who you are, being proud of who you are. Discouragement is the plague of society. That is worse than COVID. That is worse than obesity. It's worse than heart disease.
Mm,
And if you'll just love accountability, you'll stop with discouragement. You'll be
that's
proud
great.
of who you are.
That's great. Well, you might be answering my number 2 question, which is, what's your least favorite word, Don?
Just discouragement and criticism, like negative criticism. I just don't like, and I don't like hatred. I don't think there's any place for it.
That's great. That's great. What is something that could make your day?
My children's laughter.
Mm, mm,
They're the greatest thing in the world. And I
yeah.
love my kids every day. And when they
Yeah.
laugh, it's everything.
It just gets you right here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I know. I know. It's beautiful. I love it. That's great. What's something that could ruin your day?
Uh, you know, that ruins my day is when I see my kids sad or hurting, right?
Mhm.
Um, they grow from that. That's been some of my hardest days is when they struggle or they hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. How many do you have? How many kids do you have?
3 kids.
3 kids?
My oldest is in college. My beautiful daughter, she's going to be a senior this year. My son is going to be he'll be 16 in March.
Oh, you're
So I'm
close.
2 years away from empty nester. My wife and I are 2 years away. I
You're
can't
close. You're close. And then
count it down.
she's got to put up with you 24/7. Oh my goodness.
I know, lucky for her.
Like she doesn't already deserve a medal or some sort of a trophy as it is.
Yeah.
I'm sure. That's great. That's great. Um, what's a sound or noise that you love?
I mentioned about laughter from my kids. I do love my wife's laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a great tell her it's a cackle laugh,
Yeah.
but I just love to hear her laugh.
That's good. That's good. It sounds like you're really rooted in joy and
Yeah, very
laughter
much.
and happiness, and pushing away from all of the negativity and the disdain, and that's wonderful. What's a sound or noise that you hate?
Yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like really passionate, angry yelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't mind a good debate, right? I don't mind a good debate, but angry yelling, I don't.
Where it's just comes from like deep in down here. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. All right, one last one. What profession other than your own would you have liked to attempt?
I would have been a Broadway star. I would have been a musical theater actor.
Really?
So I was a musical theater major in college, and I still remember when I'd gotten a scholarship in musical theater, and my wife and I were married, and here we were. This is before emails, right? So I had the letter, and we were sitting there looking at, should we go to NYU? Should we do this? And she said, I'll support you if you want to go and do this, but my biggest fear is that we'll make it. And think about 8 shows a week and living in the city. And so she went to bed, and I said I'm religious, so I was saying a prayer, and I realized, this isn't the life that we want. And so I tore up that letter and walked away and changed my major the next day to finance. And
Wow.
the rest of my life is history. And so that was it.
Wow. Incredible story.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have you on today if that wasn't the case. So
That's right.
great. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, our friend Jack Gabriel says, great segment. Thank you, Jack. Thanks for being here. And thanks for listening today. Don, tell the world, how do they find you? What's the best way for them to contact you? How do they get to you? So then you can impart your knowledge on how to help them, sustain, grow, their business and really get their culture moving in the right direction.
First thing is keep listening to the Pipe podcast. This is such a great vehicle. I know I said it at the beginning, but you really do supply great content for people in sales, even myself. It's fantastic. You can find me. We're very active on Instagram, executivecoach.don, or on our website, accountabilitynow.net. And our sweet spot is if you're under 3 million. We're trying to help you grow your process to 20 million. And my favorite thing about talking with people like Crispin is there's no competition in this world, that everybody works. If you have an abundance mentality, you can absolutely work together and grow together. And so I love that. I love what you're doing, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you for letting me come on here and talk.
Are you kidding me? Anytime. And when you get that next book going, I want you to come on so we can launch it for you.
You got it, man. Absolutely. We just got with our publisher. They're out of the UK. They're called Black Penguin Publishing. They're going to publish it for us. So we're very excited about that.
Good. Well, great having you on, Don. Thank you for sharing your sales knowledge with the listeners and the viewers. And I always close every episode like this. So keep selling and have fun doing it. Thanks again, Don. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right. This is the reason why you should buy. And we're not asking the most important question, the reason why it was important for them, in their heart of hearts. Like, that's a sale. Then we're going to see results, the mindset, going into every opportunity, saying to yourself, I would love to have the business, but I don't need the business. When they talk about building their organization just through referral, that means they're missing it. The internet almost shut down because they're like, are you blind? Do you not know what's going on out there? Do you not see what's happening?